Hello, Guardians. It is Tuesday, July 21st, which means it is time for the weekly reset. This is the Destiny IT Pros podcast. We are your hosts, Jeremy Wright.
And I'm Dan Stanford.
Of course, this podcast is brought to you by FrontPoint IT, www.frontpoint-it.com, Utah's premier managed service provider. Well, let's go through the weekly stuff really quick. Everybody knows what's on their minds right now, so we'll just run through the weekly really quick and get to the good stuff. So for the weekly reset, the Nightfall Strike is the Will of Crota, Omnigul with Rainbow Burn. So just whatever you want to do there.
It'll be a lot of fun. I'm actually looking forward to it. So
the Heroic Strike is Winter's Run, so the Archon Priest with Void Burn only. And then level 32, Prison of Elders is Cult of the Worm, which was level 34 last week. And then level 34 is Broken Legion. And 35 is Skolas' Revenge, as always. Now on to what everybody actually wants to talk about. So 5 days ago, Bungie posted to Twitter and onto their blog about the changes that are coming in the Destiny 2.0 update, which I was surprised that they were doing in 2.0 with the release of The Taken King. So
agreed.
Destiny 2.0 is coming out with the release of The Taken King. And they released a huge blog post about all the different changes that are coming to the weapons and the way the game is going to be played after that release.
It's pretty epic. The scope of what they're doing at the beginning of the release, there on their website. If you go to Bungie and go under news, you'll see it. Weapon update 2.0 or something to that effect. They said, we thought about doing this incrementally. This weapon, that weapon. But they said, in order to get the level of balance that they want, they were going to just do the entire enchilada. Needless to say, I've got a whole lot of opinion about it, and I know Jeremy does too. We have not talked ahead of time regarding our thoughts on this. Anything but happy regarding these updates. I'll let, once you... Well, start, Jeremy.
They basically have changed every class of weapons. They've edited them and changed them in some way, shape, or form. There's a lot of stuff here. So we're going to try to run through each one and then kind of talk about the bigger picture of what it means as we go through each one. So these are what they call like the base weapon changes. So as a whole, they've changed the auto rifles. So at the 1.1.1 update, they nerfed auto rifles basically.
Big time.
They took them down.
Yes.
So now with the 2.0, they've granted the ability to independently tune range and damage fall off. So before, when they tuned the range, it would decrease the damage fall off. Or they were intertwined together. They went at the same time. So what they're doing now is they are able to change the damage fall off and range independently. Basically, they're going to make it so that the auto rifles are a more competitive option in PvP and simultaneously more satisfying to use in PvE. So they've increased the base damage, but started
5%?
10% against
10%.
AI combats.
Yes, PoE or PvE.
Correct. So they've started the damage fall off closer to the player to emphasize its role as a close to medium range weapon. And they say small reduction in base stability, landing shots at optimal range is unaffected, but repeated precision hits require more weapon control to land consistently. Overall, that's not really that big of a deal with auto rifles. I mean, nobody uses auto rifles anymore anyways after the update. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to get people back into using them, I think.
Well, considering the amount of nerfs that are in this, auto rifles might start looking a little more appealing.
Right. And now onto pulse rifles. So pulse rifles are strong right now in PvP. They want to maintain the feeling of raw power, but introduce some subtlety to the firing mechanics of the weapon. So the base damage for the mid-speed, most common rate of fire is now tuned so that victim's armor stat is the deciding factor in a time to kill. And this is, of course, in a PvP, is what they're referring to there. The base stability of all pulse rifles has been dropped slightly so that you're able to land so that the recoil is still predictable.
But precision shots are harder to hit consecutively.
And then they've increased the magazine size across the board to make them more efficient in PvE activities, which is honestly kind of a welcome change in that regard. So what they're trying to do overall with the pulse rifle is so it's good at medium range, but can still effectively engage enemies at a medium long range. And then they want to set the rate of fire so that you're able to track moving targets and deliver precision damage in bursts. And they want the pulse rifles to feel strong in PvP, but also increase their efficiency in PvE, but they don't want them to become the only competitive option in PvP. Overall, the changes to the scout rifle or to the pulse rifles are kind of boring, not really anything exciting or too groundbreaking. It seems like they're more fine-tuning the pulse rifle.
However, being able to not do the consecutive precision hits, because every time you pull that trigger, you fire off 3 rounds, and if you can't, for example, with a scout rifle, it's one shot, you get precision, you're done. And you get that damage. With the pulse rifle, the only way to make it useful is you got to land all 3 of those shots in order for it to be anywhere near as, like I said, useful compared to the other weapons. And so by nerfing the precision shots, I do see this being a big deal, and I think it may seriously damage them.
They also reduced the base damage of the medium rate of fire pulse rifles by 2.5%. Which seems like a really weird number to use, 2.5%. So that's pulse rifle changes. Scout rifles. So scout rifles they say they're pretty much fine right now. But what they're trying to do is they want to separate scout rifles from the hand cannon archetypes. So they're saying that the scout rifle are the best primary weapon for long range engagements. That's what they want to do with it. And I agree with that because so many times in the Crucible, I've been outmatched by a Thorn with a scout rifle at a long range encounter, which shouldn't happen. But they say they perform best when landing paced precision shots, and then they've also changed the rate of fire and optics so that scout rifles are a little harder to use effectively close in. So they've actually buffed scout rifles, by increasing the base damage for medium to high rate of fire scout rifles. And they're saying in PvP, this does not affect the time to kill on a Guardian with full health. They've increased the magazine size on scout rifles as well. And then they reduced the final accuracy when firing from the hip. And they boosted the damage by 5% against AI combatants. I don't think reducing the final accuracy when firing from hip doesn't really make any difference. Who uses a scout rifle hip firing? I mean, honestly, you should be using ADS. I use ADS at all times anyways, but
that seems odd to me too, but I guess there's plenty of people out there playing it.
So again, there's a net buff for scout rifles in my mind.
Agreed.
They've made them better overall.
Yep. Now
on to hand cannons, and this is where I start to get a little frustrated. So hand cannons, they said during the last update, so 1.1.1, they made a small adjustment to the initial accuracy, range, and damage fall off, looking to curb the long-range effectiveness of hand cannons. I don't think it was a small adjustment. I immediately noticed the difference on how well the hand cannons were able to hit a precision shot first time after that update. It actually made me not want to use hand cannons anymore.
You've mentioned that before. After that change, that it was significant, and I'm not a hand cannon guy. You are most definitely, and I've watched you play, and even had you say, now watch, from a medium to perhaps slightly long distance shot with a hand cannon, it was just a no-go. Where before the last nerf that they did on it, 1.1.1, you were able to hit those, and your precision, you were just dropping guys left and right.
Well, and they know that however, anyone who has been cross-map zapped by a Thorn or a Hawkmoon knows it's still possible, and that's true. You can still use a Thorn as a very long-range weapon. So they pushed it a little bit further, they said. So they've now made it so that landing a long-range shot now requires a slow, careful aim, and a hit at that distance won't deliver on the weapon's full damage potential. So in PvE, they want the roll of the hand cannon to be close to the roll of the scout rifle. Hand cannons do slightly more base damage. The only difference is that they want hand cannons to be for a closer range and scout rifles to be for a longer range.
Because they're both high impact weapons.
Correct.
And they're trying to separate. They want the hand cannon closer, just like you said, the scout rifle to be the longer range shot.
And so they want the hand cannons to be optimal when the shots are paced, so taking slow, consistent shots. and less effective when fired quickly. So when you're spazzing the trigger, you shouldn't be able to land precision shots or take down an enemy as quickly is what they want with a hand cannon. So they say it rewards agility under fire, precision targeting, and snapshots, and they cannot reliably compete with scout rifles at long range. I agree with that only in PvP though. I think if you're going against somebody in PvP with a scout rifle at a long range and they have a hand cannon, you should be able to win that battle 9 times out of 10 unless they are very, very good at shooting under fire. And so they made the go ahead.
It does strike me as odd, though, that you would get a penalty for shooting the weapon quickly. You know, it's like, okay, if you're good at this and you can shoot quickly and you are able to aim it and in theory get those precision shots, why not get rewarded with that?
Mm-hmm.
Why would they start to take that away?
Right.
To me, that is penalizing us as players, and that is not right.
So the actual changes they made were starting the damage fall off closer to the player to limit the long range lethality, small reduction in ADS accuracy, which is BS, and they targeted at making long range snap shooting less reliable, reduce the final accuracy when firing from the hip. That's fine. The only hand cannon that gets hip fired or should be hip fired is the last word. It reduced the magazine size for all base inventory stats. Some hand cannons have a 4 magazine base inventory stat. So what, they nerfed that down to 2? Or like, what are you going to do with that? So I'm thinking in my head right now, my primary is Fatebringer. I have a 13 round magazine with Field Scout. 13 rounds is a lot for a hand cannon. I'll admit that, which is why it's so awesome, because you get 13 rounds. So if they're going to nerf that, I'm going to guess we're going to go down to 10, which makes it to the point where it's not unusable, but that becomes much more difficult, especially in a hairy encounter where everything's getting crazy. Those 3 extra shots are the difference between life and death. And now they say that they reduced the base optics for all hand cannons, so ADS now grants more width in favor of depth. So rather than zooming in, you're going to have a bigger picture. That's fine. They're trying to limit the range on the hand cannon is what they're trying to do.
Yeah. Yep.
And then now we're on to shotguns. So the shotgun changes in 1.1.1 hit range pretty hard. Basically, they buffed shotguns like crazy. The last one.
300%. So 3 times the damage in PvE.
Right. And so they said that for almost all the shotguns available to players, it felt really good in their playtest. Occasionally, a long-range shotgun with the right perks on it would show up and push the intended limits, but they were few and far between until the Iron Banner had Fellwinter's Lie. So then they could people were reforging it, and they had these long-range perks, and you could get a shotgun that was a one-hit kill from like a good 20 feet away, basically. That's what they were doing. And that's fine. So I see what they're doing there. They're trying to make it harder to make a shotgun like that. And that's fine, because anybody who plays Crucible knows that getting constantly hit with a shotgun from across the room and getting one hit killed is really annoying. But what they've also done is they're also nerfing the PvE aspect of shotguns now.
Yeah.
So they said that we've seen groups of Guardians gang up with their boomsticks and trivially roll through some pretty tough PvE encounters. I would be one of those people. The reward of gut blasting a hulking enemy is super sweet, they say, but that close quarters action could benefit from a slight reduction in outgoing damage.
So they're trying to make it more risky. So there's a little bit, it's not just reward to get up in, say, a Minotaur's face and blast it with a shotgun. Now you got to think about it and say, oh, wait a minute, I'm not going to hit this quite as hard. You know, is this Minotaur going to be able to slap me back before I can finish it off?
So what they've done is they've reduced the precision damage multiplier by 10%. And then they've also reduced the damage against AI combatants by 10%. Now, how much 10% actually is in the real world is an interesting thing to think about. Does that mean it's going to take one more shot to take down a Minotaur? Does that mean it's going to be one more shot on a captain? How is that going to play into it? And I use shotguns as my go-to. I need help. I've got 3 guys on me, and I need to get out of here. I have a 7-round shotgun that has full auto, and I just blast everything out of the way and then run like crazy. That's all I do. That's all I've got. And I feel like they're trying to take that away from me.
It seems odd to me too, because there always is that risk with a shotgun of whatever it is, because you've got to get up close in order to really use it. Of that guy, slapping you back and hitting you quite hard. You take something like, a wizard and the like, using a shotgun on them is rather risky. I don't know why it is that they would want to nerf this. It just strikes me as strange. And later in this podcast, I'll talk a little bit more to that once we get through the weapons.
We're just trying to get through the weapons really quick and just kind of the base changes, and then we'll really get into what it means for Destiny as a whole, in our opinion. So fusion rifles, they hit the accuracy apparently in the last update. So everybody moved to shotguns, which I was one of those people. I just said, screw fusion rifles. I'm just going to use a shotgun now. So they reduced the overall range, but scaled back the nerf on close-range fusion rifles to help them contend with shotguns in close quarters. To me, a fusion rifle seems like it should be a mid to long-range weapon, because you have your long range, which is your sniper.
Yeah.
Mid-range should be a fusion rifle, and short range should be your shotgun.
It should be the shotgun. But the fusion rifle is almost not playable. I would rather just go ahead and sprint and get up in the thing's face and shotgun it, or just back off and then just snipe it. The mid-range, semi-hard hit with the fusion rifle with the charge time and everything else, it just has not factored into any of our play styles.
So what they've done actually is the slow charging, high impact fusion rifles have decreased range values. It makes it more difficult to max out the range for these weapons. So if you have a slow charging, high impact fusion rifle, they want you to use it at a shorter range. The projectile speed for fusion rifles is slightly reduced. I think it's interesting that they keep using vague adjectives for this, like slightly reduced or slightly nerfed, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it emphasizes the need to lead a target outside medium range, is what it said. They improved the accuracy for short-range fusion rifles, which is good because I noticed a huge difference in accuracy. But they reduced the accuracy for long-range fusion rifles. Fine. So sniper rifles right now, they've kind of basically said they're about the same. So they changed. The only thing they really changed on them is that the final round on sniper rifle buffs precision damage only, not base damage. Basically, you had a bunch of people in Crucible who were wasting all of their ammo except for the last bullet.
Yep.
Body shotting somebody, and then that would kill them. You can no longer do that.
Yep.
Fine. Now they're on to rocket launchers. They say there's not much to say about rocket launchers. You find a purple brick, you load up your rocket launcher, and you blow stuff up. They said they're giving rocket explosions a tiny boost in blast radius, and then grenades and horseshoes proximity detonation is reduced.
Yeah, they're nerfing the perks, the things you can unlock on a rocket launcher.
Yeah. But they upgraded the overall blast radius, which they say a slight increase again with a vague adjective. So they say, unlike the last weapon balance update, they're going to address a few exotic weapons specifically. So they're actually going to change them specifically. So they say some of these changes are intended to make you feel better while killing with a weapon, and some are intended to make you feel better while being killed with the weapon. Whatever that means. So Hard Light, which is the exotic auto rifle that nobody uses except for a few people. They increased the base stability to 80, was 65, so that's probably a welcome change on that thing. They increased the bounce count for hard light projectiles, and hard light projectiles are not affected by damage fall off. Fine. So they basically have tuned that into a little bit better of a weapon, which is good. The Necrochasm, they increased the base stability to 60, was 40, increased the magazine size. The Cursebringer perk will always trigger on a precision kill, and the Cursebringer explosion has increased radius and deals more damage. So that's good. They made that weapon better now, so that was a better weapon now.
The Necrochasm's always had some severe issues, and considering how difficult it is to get, it needs help. And hopefully some of the buffs that they're putting on it will help bring that thing back from the dead. It's a neat gun, but it is at the moment worthless.
And then they're actually going to work on the last word. So the last word is the fastest time to kill primary in the game. And in my opinion, one of the best looking and coolest guns in the game. If not, it's not the best weapon to use, but it is really cool, and I really like that gun. So they reduced the range stat to 10 and it was 20. So I'm not sure if that means it's a 50% decrease or how that number works, but that thing had a low range anyways. So they increased it by half and then they reduced the stability to 20 and it was 30. So they reduced the effective range while in ADS. They increased the accuracy and precision damage aim assist scale when firing from the hip. So basically, you can hit harder and have a more likelihood of getting a precision hit when you're firing from the hip, which is one of the perks on the last word, is it has increased damage when firing from the hip. And then they fixed bugs with hip fire damage bonus applying incorrectly. So they made that gun worse. That's basically what they did. Now we're on to Thorn. Thorn is the one that everybody seems to be talking about because Thorn is the weapon that everybody complains about in PvP encounters. I don't use it until I get killed by somebody else using it, and then I start using it because I want to prove that I have one too and I can use it. They said it started as a weapon that was perceived as an unworthy award for one of the most contentious exotic bounties in the game. I didn't think it was that hard to get it, so I'm not sure what people...
Yeah, I even hoped you work on getting it. I don't know.
It wasn't that bad.
No.
But they said that the weapon, it is the most popular weapon in PvP for everybody to use. And if you've ever played PvP, you know for sure that it is one of the most popular weapons. So they reduced the base damage on the Thorn and reduced the range as well, obviously. The base damage of the Thorns marked the Devourer perk, so the damage over time perk, to roughly 1/3 of what it was in PvP and PvE.
Wow.
But they allow it to stack 5 times now.
So you can keep plugging rounds into it and it stacks.
Correct. So it's a net buff for the Thorns DOT, but reduces the lethality of the weapon in PvP. Honestly, that's kind of a welcome change to me because it's less likely that you're going to get killed by somebody who only shot you 3 times. But now in PvE, it's been buffed as well. We'll get into why these things are stupid in a minute.
Okay.
It's really frustrating me trying to get through this. And then there's Hawk Moon stuff. They fixed the Hawk Moon. We don't have PlayStation, so we have no idea. It's a cool gun. I want it. We'll get it eventually. But here's the changes they made. They added a stack limit to Luck in the Chamber and Holding Aces so that only 2 of the bonus perks will ever stack into one round. This should prevent the Hawk Moon from one-hit killing full health players in PvP. This thing sounds kind of awesome, actually. And adds 2 rounds to the Hawk Moon's magazine when Holding Aces unlocked. And then Luck in the Chamber damage bonus is reduced by 3%. So there's that. Icebreaker. This is going to be one of the more contentious changes that they've made. So they increased the recharge time for Icebreaker to 1 every 8 seconds. It was 1 round every 5 seconds. So in order to get a full magazine now, you're going to have to get a 48 seconds.
48 seconds.
So almost 1 minute for a full magazine as opposed to 30 seconds before. So they've almost doubled the time that it takes to get a full, almost doubled, not quite, the time it takes to get a full magazine in there. Because what's happened is they said that everybody basically sits back and snipes with Icebreaker, and it's become one of the primary strategies for PvE in finishing strikes or raids is to use Icebreaker. True, but we'll get to that in a second. So
I'm biting my lip badly right now.
No Land Beyond is sworn off as one of the worst exotics in the game. So they increased the weapon handling, adjusted the sights, increased the decay of the master to 8 seconds, and adds an additional 20% precision bonus damage while the master is active. I think I got it once and I dismantled it immediately because, or maybe I did, I don't know. I've never used it, so I don't know. We'll see how that plays out. Black Hammer, while technically not an exotic, this weapon is chased as if it were a sniper rifle you can get in the Vault of Glass. It is the only sniper rifle that is capable of ending a PvE boss faster than Icebreaker. So they increased the ammo inventory to 18 rounds, and now the White Nail perk pulls ammo from your inventory. So prior, you were able to shoot 3 precision shots, and on the 4th, it would reload your ammo, but it wouldn't take it out of reserve.
Correct.
Now they're going to take it out of the reserve.
Nerf.
Yeah. And then Lord of Wolves, it's one of the newer shotguns, I believe, or newer weapons. I don't have it, so I don't know. But
Yeah.
they've tripled the recovery boost bonus for allies granted by Lord of Wolves, which is kind of cool. It's that gun that when you get killed, when it's you get the kills with it or whatever, it grants a recovery boost or something for everybody around you. Maybe it's super. I don't know. I'll have to look
Cool.
into it.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the Gallahorn. So what they've done with the Gallahorn now is they
Don't say it, Jeremy.
have reduced the damage of the Wolfpack rounds.
Say it isn't so.
So basically, they say that everybody was using the Gallahorn because it's awesome. And
Yeah.
they said that people wouldn't pick up people for Raid or Nightfall groups unless they had the Gallahorn. Now, I haven't been around in the Raid and Nightfall stuff since the beginning, but I've never heard of anybody actually doing that. I know it exists because I know people always say, I have the Gallahorn, by the way. And I know that everybody wants other people to have it, but I would never not take somebody with me because I don't have the Gallahorn. And so thanks to those people for ruining it for us, apparently. But it is the most popular weapon to have in, well, these graphs are kind of misleading. It's 25 to 40% of the character of people playing PvE are using the Gallahorn.
Yeah, it jumps around over time, but yeah.
Which is probably the amount of people that actually just have it.
Yeah, good point.
Just saying. Like,
Mhm.
okay. So then there's a bunch of stuff that they talked about. They wanted to basically... All right, so that's pretty much it for the actual stuff. They basically what they're doing is then they're also going to change the stats. They want to make it so that you have to make a harder decision when choosing stats for your weapon. They want you to have a trade-off between one stat for another. So if you want increased range, you're going to have to take a huge hit in impact, and vice versa. They want to make that what's happening.
So they've nerfed the weapon stats as you upgrade, unlock the upgrades on weapons.
Correct.
Yeah.
Basically, to me, this seems like they are...
Okay, it's go time.
Yeah, let's go time.
Yep.
They need to wall off PvP and PvE.
Big time.
That's it.
That's where I was going to.
Everybody is complaining about the weapons in PvP, and then they get nerfed in PvE.
Yep. Hang on. Let me go over this real briefly. There will be, you may disagree with this, but the gist of it is true. Auto rifle was buffed. Pulse rifle was nerfed because of PvP. Scout rifle buffed. Hand cannon nerfed because of PvP. Shotgun nerfed because of PvE.
Correct.
Fusion rifle, it had accuracy changes, no big deal. Sniper rifles nerfed, PvP. Rocket launchers nerfed, PvP. Thorn nerfed, PvP. Last Word nerfed, PvP. Hawkmoon nerfed, PvP. Icebreaker nerfed, PvE. Black Hammer nerfed, PvE. Exotics or other, and then Lord of Wolves, Necrochasm, those are both buffed. Gallahorn nerfed because of PvE and bad player behavior. I hope the pattern is seen here. They need to stop adjusting the weapons because of PvP. They need to wall it off. They need to separate these two. It's becoming to the point where it is two separate games.
Well, and the key factor here is not the game, but the people playing the game.
Okay.
So what's happening is Bungie is listening to a very vocal minority of people. The people who are complaining about the weapons constantly may not be their core players, and I don't know if anybody there has actually thought about that. Because what's happened is we don't get on Twitter, we don't get on Bungie forums and complain about a weapon and say, oh, the Thorn needs to be nerfed, blah, blah, blah. We don't do that. We've started doing this podcast so that I'm sure Bungie doesn't listen to it, but nonetheless, we're doing this, but we are not vocal until we have to be. And now it's a time where we're starting to be vocal because they are forcing everybody to change their play styles because of everybody else. So we have gotten used to playing a certain way. I've gotten used to playing a certain way. I've already changed it before because of the weapon changes, and I just accepted it and said, fine, now I can use this weapon instead, and it'll be more fun. But they keep nerfing and adjusting the weapons because people are complaining about them. And that's fine. They're trying to respond to community feedback. I understand that.
But it's a
they're doing it
minority.
wrong. Well, it's minority, and they're doing it incorrectly. If the Thorn is too powerful in PvP, Don't nerf the damn thing. Instead, give us better weapons to compete with it. Give us new stuff. Give us something awesome that can take down the Thorn. But don't give us one more. Give us 5 more weapons that we can strive for. Because then what we're going to do is we're going to try to play all the other stuff so that we can get those weapons so we can take down the people that have the Thorn.
Okay.
Give us another weapon to compete with Gjallarhorn. Give us a better exotic rocket launcher machine gun, even if it's a legendary. Don't make it better than the Gjallarhorn. The Gjallarhorn needs to hold its place, but give us another option. Give us something that can compare to it. Because what do we have that compares to the Gjallarhorn? Why does everybody use it? Because if your entire fire team has a Gjallarhorn, you can make Swiss cheese of any strike boss in a matter of seconds.
Yeah.
That's why everybody uses it. There's no other weapon that compares to it. So give us something else. Stop changing the game around these weapons and stop changing the weapons because you're altering our play styles. And that's what frustrates me is they say that it's a game and it's a sandbox and you can play it however you want to unless we don't want to do it.
Well, here's where I start off with my beef. What in the world is Bungie trying to fix by doing this? Mm-hmm. What in the world is the point of this? Now, with that said, Thorn is an issue in PvP. I get it. People are running around just crushing people left and right. They've got a little chart with stats, it's here on this laptop, of what weapons people are using in the Crucible, and it's just Thorn. It is markedly used more than everything else. Okay, but why does that have to translate over into PvE? And why this carte blanche going through and changing these weapons when in your description, Bungie, of the issues with these weapons, you are referring to PvP. And yet the changes you're making are to both PvP and PvE. I don't understand why you have to do both of those.
Well, I think part of it is that they want the same experience, but my thoughts on this are that the guns should behave the same in both PvE and PvP, but they should be different but in a predictable way. So you should be able to take the same gun, use it in PvE, have it work how you expect it to, take it to PvP, and have it work like you expect it to. They can be different, but they just need to be predictable in the way that it's going to react.
And I think it's fine to have them. I mean, I think it would be even fine to have a perk that was exclusive to PvP. I think it's fine to have the weapons behave. You said you wanted them consistent. I think it would be even fine to have them work inconsistently between the two areas of play, because the way that you play the two areas is different. The damage output, the way that you take down players and stuff like that is different. I mean, there is no PvP player out there that is like Fogoth that you've just got to keep lobbing rounds into. So by nature, they're different things. And for a weapon to even behave differently, I think that's fine.
Or maybe they should just give us weapons that are entirely PvP exclusive.
There you go.
They've already started to do that with the armor, and there are some weapons that you can only get through PvP, but you can play them in PvE. So why don't we just amp it up and say, fine, you want to play Trials of Osiris? Great. Yeah. You can use your PvE weapons if you want to, but instead, why don't you strive to get these excellent PvP weapons that you can only use in Trials of Osiris or in the Crucible, etc., and have them have perks that are great in PvP, because what they're alienating the players who don't play PvP, and they're changing our play styles by altering PvP components of the game.
I think it's very telling the way that you worded that, in that there would be exclusive weapons for PvP, not exclusive weapons for PvE.
Right.
And I think the big reason for that is the enemies and the monsters in PvE don't go on Twitter and don't sit there and complain and whine about being killed, where in PvP they do. So again, we're making all these exceptions. We're making different rules in that for player versus player play. and it's all the more player versus player and PvE need to be separate. They need to be treated completely separate. And I would even go so far as to say, I think fundamentally Bungie made a mistake. Right from the beginning of even having the player versus player element in the game.
Well, it needs to be there because the people that are going to, they need both of those audiences. That's why it's there. Because people that play lots of PvP tend to actually not play, well, not blanket statement, but a lot of people that play PvP do not play PvE and vice versa. So they have to have both in order to maximize their sales because they are a business and they're trying to sell a game. I get that.
I think it should have been some type of, even like a separate game, if you will, where you could take your Guardian and move them between the two, but actually had two separate games. I mean, that's the extent of how frustrated I am with this weapon nerfing that's going on. Because as I look through it, I just keep seeing player versus player, player versus player as the reasons that they are making these changes to these weapons that are going to have a big impact on PvE. I mean, you can go through lists and say, oh, well, it's a 5% buff here, 2.5%, nerf there, that sort of stuff. But how many times have you been in the face of some big old guy in PvE with just fractions of seconds on the line is the difference between you either, winning or dying in the game. And these little changes that they're making cannot be understated. They're legit, they're real, and they will have an impact on what guns you're going to use and how things are going to evolve with the game.
And again, that comes down to the minority. Sure, there probably are players that they have the extreme cases of the people on the one end of the spectrum who are extremely good at the game, who are able to run in there with these exotic weapons and the Black Hammer and Gallowhorn and Icebreaker, all that stuff. They run in there with all those weapons. They do the raids that are supposed to be hard, the raids that are supposed to be difficult in a matter of minutes. And I think that frustrates Bungie. But what they don't see is the middle ground. The people who absolutely need that extra 5%, like you were saying, from Gallowhorn. They need that 5% from the shotgun. And we're the people who, because the other people are going to buy the game anyways. They're going to buy the new DLCs anyways. They're going to buy the new game when it comes out because that's their thing. They're good at Destiny. That's what they do. Us, on the other hand, if it comes to a point where we can't play the game and it's not fun anymore because we're struggling because of changes that they've made, we're going to stop buying the game and we're going to stop buying the DLCs and we're going to find something else to play.
This leads me into Gallowhorn in a big way. To me, Gallowhorn is Christmas.
Yeah.
And it is a reason to play the game. Everybody knows about Gallowhorn. Everybody knows that it is an absolutely remarkable weapon, and it is difficult to get. Mm-hmm. How long, as I think back, and how many other people out there are almost playing the game just to get Gallowhorn. It is a major event. It is like Christmas. You look forward to it. If you keep playing one of these days, if you're a good boy or girl, Christmas and Santa Claus is going to roll around and you're going to get a present. And that's what Gallowhorn is. It is arguably, but in my opinion, the greatest weapon in the game and the greatest reward that you can get in the game. And for them to actually nerf that is a horrible mistake, is a terrible mistake. You're taking away many people's reason for playing the game. Why would Bungie do that? Bungie, it is a big mistake and it is bad form.
Well, and what I was saying is that they need to give us more things to play for. Don't take stuff away from us. Sure, maybe make the enemies a little bit harder, fine. Don't nerf the weapons, though. Don't change the way the weapons play. Make the game a little bit harder then. Give the enemies a 5% boost in health. Great. Do something like that, whatever. We wouldn't know about that. It would just be the way it is. But don't take down the Gallowhorn. Instead, give us something else to strive for. Give us another weapon that
and there's nothing right now.
Yeah,
there's nothing that stands up to the level of Gallowhorn.
On their little thing here, the primary or the heavy weapon equipped stats, they have Hunger of Crota is at like 7 to 8%,
which I have fully ascended, and that thing is a good weapon. but it doesn't hold a candle to Gallahorn.
They have some other ones here. Looks like Dreamwaker is around like 4 or 5%.
Truth, maybe.
Truth is up somewhere in there too. It's
Yeah.
kind of hard to tell on their graph.
Yeah.
But the point of this graph is that Gallahorn clearly is a good 20% more equipped than any other weapon. There's a reason for that. So give us more reasons. They need to take this graph and they need to change it. They need to make it so that the Gallahorn is down here with the rest of them, not because it's been nerfed and it's not as good anymore, but because the other weapons are so good that you want to use them too. There needs to be a decision that needs to go through your head. That's what they want us to do, is make a decision of what weapon is the best weapon for this. Not the Gallahorn is the best weapon for this. So no matter what, that's the answer all the time. That needs to go away. Instead, they need to give us better weapons to compete with it. So we're not making that decision because the Gallahorn sucks now. We're making that decision because, hey, you know what? This gun actually probably is better in this situation than the Gallahorn is. Because even with Arcburn and even with the Nightfalls, I still use Gallahorn most of the time because it's just awesome.
Oh, yeah.
So give me something better. Give me an arc rocket launcher that I want to use instead and say, you know, the Gallahorn is awesome, but this one's really going to do a lot better for me in this situation.
I think it's Gallahorn in particular because when you look at the heavy weapons, nothing really compares to it.
No.
When you go to the primary weapons, there's a number of very good primary weapons that you do swap out. Okay, I'm going to use this one in this encounter, this one in this encounter. But when it comes to the heavies, it's all about Gallahorn. And yeah, if there were other Christmases, other things to strive for that are that level of good, I can see that as being a replacement. I'm going to lob one more insult at Bungie here. I think one of Bungie's big problems is egotism. They wrote the game. They created the weapons. They had this vision in mind. Auto rifles will be used this way. Fusion rifles will be used this way. Rocket launchers will be used this way. And they had this little plan. And then when us darn players came along that, you know, paid their salaries, pay your salaries, Bungie, when we came along and we started to exploit the weapons and finding, you know, weaknesses and benefits to certain play styles and the way certain weapons work, they start pulling their hair out and saying, oh, but they're not using fusion rifles anymore. I'm so upset about it because the shotguns are so much better. I mean, you can just go to Varix when you go into PoE, fight, win. We are here to play the game and to win the game in any manner that we can take. And if the shotgun is the better weapon, we're going to use shotguns. And for Bungie to sit back and get upset, if you will, and say, but they're not using fusion rifles anymore, or they're not using these other rocket launchers. I really like the Truth rocket launcher. Why aren't they using that? Well, let's just start pulling down the other weapons that they're all using so that they are forced to do different play styles. It's just bad form, Bungie. It's not the way that it should be done.
They need to give us more, not less. They need to add more things to the game and stop taking away. You want to use shotguns? Great. But guess what? There's this new fusion rifle that we came out with that hits twice as hard as any other fusion rifle. Yeah. Like, you know, like something like that. Like, that's what they need to do. And maybe not even tell the players, just have it be a surprise so that people know that they found, like, oh, like, check out this weird scout rifle I got. This thing's, I've never even heard of this thing before, but it hits 25% harder than any other scout rifle. How awesome is that? Give us exotics that are actually exotic, because the Gallahorn really feels like an exotic.
It does.
Everything else doesn't.
No, agreed.
Dragon's Breath, terrible. Truth is
Eh.
okay. It works well as a rocket launcher. Is Hunger of Crota better? Probably.
Definitely.
Or maybe, like, say, you know, we've got this rocket launcher. It actually hits 10% harder than Gallahorn, but it doesn't have tracking or cluster bombs or the Wolfpack rounds.
See, that would get interesting.
See, exactly. Start taking those things and say, hey, you know what? We've got this other hand cannon. It hits harder than Thorn, doesn't have the damage over time, but it hits harder than Thorn, and it has a little bit faster rate of fire. What do you see? What can you do with this gun? You know, those are the things they need to be doing, not saying, oh, everybody's complaining about Thorn. I guess we're going to take it down. We're going to bring it down so that it's not as effective. we're going to make scout rifles more effective because we thought people should be using scout rifles. We didn't think people were going to be any good with a hand cannon at long range. Like you said, they're like, well, they're not playing the game the way we want them to.
Exactly.
So why don't we make it so we're forcing them to play it that way?
Yeah.
Screw that. Celebrate the fact that we're playing the game differently. They should be able to learn from that and say, hey, these guys are playing this game this really weird way. We had no idea that people were going to play it this way. Let's celebrate that fact.
Quit trying to make us play the game that you envisioned in your in your minds of how the game was to be played. Let us play it with the weapons that you give us and find our own play styles and to move forward and do this. And here's the other thing. They did the patch update 1.1.1, that was a big deal. And now with version 2, the bottom line is us Guardians are going to keep doing this. It doesn't matter. We're going to find the weapons that excel with no matter how many changes you make, and we're going to exploit it. Thorn may be torn down as the PvP weapon of choice. Something will replace it. Mm-hmm. And it will just continue to go on. So let's stop trying to force us to play the way that you want us to. Let us find the ways to use the weapons, explore the sandbox, and go forward. Now, if there is a legitimate problem, I think Thorn was a legitimate problem in PvP, and something did need to be done there. But other than that, why take it so far and move it beyond? And it goes back to the whole PvP versus PvE. I think they literally should be two separate games.
I agree that something needed to be done about Thorn, but I don't think that they needed to nerf it. I would have just rather had a better gun to fight Thorn with. Like, so you got Thorn, that's great. I've got this other crazy thing that takes you out no problem. Thorn can't even compare to it. And there's 4 other guns now that can compete with Thorn, no problem. Like, that was what I wanted to see. But that's on the same level as nerfing Thorn. If you bring everything else up,
sure,
then that's kind of the same thing. That's
sure.
That's why I would rather just have. I don't want them to take anything away. I don't want them to make me change my play style. I want them just to give us more. So you know what? Shotguns are overpowered. Yes, you can go in and you can blast a Minotaur in a couple of shots, and that encounter is no longer scary to me. But it's given me the confidence to be able to do some of the harder level PvE activities because I know that, hey, worst case, I can just pull up my boomstick and just blast these things head off, no problem. Like, I know that now, and that gives me confidence to be able to do those things. And then when I have Fatebringer, Fatebringer's like this little like security blanket, when you walk into the Prison of Elders and you're fighting down like the Hive, and they're all coming at you at once.
Explode them.
And it's my security blanket. It's like, it's okay though. I've got Fatebringer. It's all right. And so when they nerf that, then what do I have? I don't have anything anymore, and that makes me nervous, and I don't like that. I don't want them to take anything away from me. I want them just to give me more things, more fun stuff to play with.
And I get where Bungie is thinking in that they don't want the weapons to escalate. Where, okay, now we need a weapon better than Galahorn. And then, Galahorn 2.0, we need a better weapon than that. And so over the 10-year span that they envisioned for this game, Galahorn, 8 years down the road is just some ridiculously little trinket that is of absolutely no value, where here's this rocket launcher that does literally 100 times the damage. I can see where Bungie does not want the weapons to necessarily escalate, but at the same time, they should, there should be something comparable to Galahorn, or there should be an alternative to it, rather than trying to pull down the upper weapons down into the middle grade. Just go ahead and give us more weapons that are on that same level, and let us go with that. We're not asking for anything better than Galahorn, just an alternative.
And like I said, not exactly the same. Maybe change up the perks. If you want us to have a trade-off, then give us a trade-off. Say, well, there's no tracking, but this does slightly more damage. So is it a better weapon? Depends on you're fighting a wizard or you're fighting an ogre.
Yeah.
Like that.
You'll never hit the wizard, but the ogre is fried.
Exactly. They need to let us make those decisions. And don't take away Icebreaker's, recharge on the ammo.
That will make no difference.
Yeah, everybody's just going to sit there longer.
Yeah, exactly. It'll just simply take longer to take down the tank. So, that's it. It will not change playstyle on that.
So instead, give us another sniper rifle that maybe has a higher rate of fire and a little more damage, but doesn't have recharging ammo. You know, like those are the things that they need to do. Is they need to give us an alternative to those weapons. Because we've come to rely on them, yes, but we've come to rely on them due to the other changes that they made previously. So what are they going to do this for 10 years, going back and forth constantly between different things? It's not sustainable, and eventually people are going to leave Bungie, you know, not because of this, but for, you know, personal reasons, whatever. They're going to quit Bungie, they'll go move somewhere else, or people get promoted. And they're going to constantly keep changing things, and somebody's going to come in and say, oh, well, I really hated the shotgun nerf, so now shotguns are going to get a 100% increase, and then shotguns are going to be crazy again, and then somebody's going to come in a month later and say, oh, never mind, and bring it back down. They need to find a better way to do this and stop outraging the community every time. And people are going to complain every time they change anything. That's kind of the end of the story.
Oh, sure.
And if you look at the big picture of these changes, there's really not anything that's like massive. As far as like a huge change, there's not anything that is going to...
Gjallarhorn might be.
Again, they're using vague adjectives.
Agreed.
There's
and might be.
Reduced damage of this. Who knows what it is? But my guff is with the bigger picture of what this means, of what they're doing overall to the game, of making us change our play style, making us do these things differently, when that's not what we want to do. We enjoy playing the game the way that we play it right now, not the way that they envision us playing it.
I question why they're doing this, and it goes back to my initial question
PvP versus PvE.
Why Bungie are you making these changes? And I don't think the reasons for making these changes are legitimate.
Pretty much. And they say this covers most of the weapon changes that address what you currently know about the game, meaning that there could be more for better or for worse to come. We still have some surprises and twists that we don't want to spoil that you'll get to experience when the Taken King is released. We play tested these changes every day, multiple times a day, in all activities using all kinds of weapons. We feel pretty good about them. However, the total amount of time we as a studio can spend on a given build of Destiny is a shred of a fraction compared to the first hour this update hits all of you. As always, we are excited and slightly terrified, to be honest, to see what comes of this update in your hands. We are reading the forums, watching streams, listening to podcasts.
Hope so.
Probably not this one. At all times, devouring your impressions in an effort to make this game better, or even reading your comments, Shudder. Heck, some of us might even be the random guardian in your pickup fire team, which means that you should start yelling at every person that you pick up randomly in the fire team, because you should assume that they're a Bungie employee. Their heart's in the right place, kind of what they're trying to do. They're trying to make the game better for everybody. They're doing it the wrong way, in my opinion. I've never released a game. Let's just put that out there. And I've never had to deal with millions of people playing something that I've created. I get what they're doing, but I think they need to radically alter the way they're doing it. Otherwise, they're going to lose their fan base and lose the players that really make it possible for them to make this game.
I just don't even see the need. I don't know why they're making these changes, other than, Thorn, in my opinion, that was a problem. But otherwise, why? What? Other than to frustrate and to frustrate your core players, it doesn't seem worthwhile.
Well, I think that's about all the opinion I have for today on this.
My soapbox has been well used.
So we'll probably catch you guys later on this podcast. Let us know in the comments below if you guys have anything to add to it. Let us know what your thoughts are on Bungie's recent update, or soon to be recent update. And of course, you can find us online. My Xbox gamer tag is IT Outlaw.
And I am Mutant Entree.
So feel free to shoot us a friend request if you'd like, or perhaps join our fire team sometime. Thanks for checking it out, guys, and have a great day.
See ya.
I would